Story time about the most dirtiest college roommate ever. By the way, we're calling her Jessie. So I moved in before Jessie and I get settled and decorate. The next day, she comes and throws her bag on the bed, then leaves. I thought it was weird because she didn't even say anything to me. Couple hours later, she comes back and I'm like, hello? And she's like, my bad, and comes giving me a hug. She smelled very bad. She starts unpacking all of her clothes and blankets, but they smelled like mildew. Anyways, a week later, there's this party going on for freshmen, and she goes, but I stay in because I had a migraine. I told her that when she comes back, can she keep the light off? Now it's 2 a.m., and she comes back in very loud, uses the bathroom, then goes to sleep. And now I'm up, so I got up to use the bathroom too. When I sit down on the toilet, I feel something very squishy. It was dark because, like I said, I had a migraine. I get up, turn the light on, and I was sitting in her shit.
Story time on how I got stuck on the water slide on the cruise. Go on this water slide, you have to weigh a bare minimum of 120 pounds. First day that I tried to go on the water slide, he weighed me and I only weighed 119.6 pounds. And he told me to go eat a sandwich and come back and I could try again. And I literally went and ate a sandwich and tried again, except for I still did not make the requirement. Next day, as I was walking past the water slide, I asked if I could try again, and for some reason, I magically hit 120 pounds. It was one of those water slides where the floor drops out from underneath you and you just free fall. I go on the slide and I have just enough weight to make it to the top ridge of the first loop, but I have to scoot my butt over it to make it down. On the second loop, I did not make it. I didn't have enough weight, so I went up and then I went down backwards. But when I went backwards, I went right past the door. So I was under the assumption that I got stuck in the only part of the water slide where there was no escape. I start panicking. I sit up in the tube. It's humid. It's hard to breathe in there. Water's rushing. Water's in my contacts. I'm trying to see. I realize that I'm in the clear part of the tube. So I look down. I'm on the part of the tube that hangs off the ship. Hundreds of feet down below is the ocean. And I'm like, don't look that way. So I look up at the guy who sent me down and I'm like, hey, I like clear the fog off the tube and I'm like, bang, and I'm like, how do I get out of here? I'm freaking out because in front of me is an upward hike on the water slide. I'm in a loop, okay, and I'm at the bottom of the loop. In my mind, it's up and up. I don't know how I'm supposed to get out. Well, he's pointing this way. He's like, go that way. So I moved this way into the water slide, which is like pitch black because it was dark and covered. And that is when I found the escape door. And the guy opened it up and he let me out. Gets me out and he was like, are you okay? And I literally look at him and I was like, that was not fun. And then I just left. And I'm a little bit of an adrenaline junkie, but that was horrifying.
Am I the asshole for picking my child up from a sleepover because the family has a bath day? So I'll start by saying that I don't think I'm the asshole in this situation, but I was told I am because I didn't respect the family's household rules. But I'll give a little background before telling the story. I have a son named Jason who's 8 years old, and he has a best friend named Brandon. The boys have been attached at the hip since they were in daycare. Brandon's mom, Ashley, and I are friendly and speak frequently because of the boys. I normally don't let my kids stay over at other places, but I've always allowed Brandon to stay at my home because his mom doesn't have this rule. Not sure if it matters, but the reason I don't allow my children to stay over at friends' houses at this young age is because I feel like at that age, they are still pretty dependent on their parents. Plus, my children usually don't ask to stay over. They ask if their friends can stay at our place, which I don't mind, since we have the space and all the fun things that kids enjoy. Okay, so on to the story. Last weekend, I broke a rule and let my son stay over at Brandon's home. 1, because he asked, and 2, because my daughter was at my mother's for the weekend, so I thought me and my husband could have a weekend to ourselves. While enjoying some adult time with my husband, Jason called me and said that he wanted to come home, but he was whispering, so I could tell something was up. I asked him why and what was wrong, and he said that Ashley wouldn't allow him to take a shower because it wasn't a bath day.
About how my best friend walks around naked in front of my boyfriend. Disclaimers are now my story time instead of me on Instagram. The bitch that used to be my best friend, yeah, she's the worst person in the entire world. By the time I met her, my boyfriend and I had already been going out for 6 months. I met her through some friends and her and I got along really well. She was wild and crazy and she brought that wild and crazy side out of me. And at the time it was something that I did need, but I didn't realize just how wild she was. Let me tell you what this girl was like. She was the type of girl that would try to bring up sex in every conversation. Like no matter who we were talking to, she would always bring up up sex. She would always try to impress everyone about how much she knew about it and how much she needed sex all the time. And sometimes I would ask her to not talk about it so much, and her response to that was, "Stop being such a prudy, bitch." My boyfriend and I decided to have all our friends over at my apartment for dinner. Since I had just met her, I decided to invite her over. This was the first time she was meeting my boyfriend and all of my friends. And of course, she proceeded to monopolize the entire conversation all night, and all she talked about was sex. Then she went to the bathroom and took off her jacket. She came out in her bra and shorts.
Crazy ass story time about how my best friend's parents walked in on me sleeping with my best friend's brothers. And yes, I said brothers. So my freshman year, I became best friends with this girl. And she had 2 older, hot ass brothers. One was in college, and one was a senior. Well, it was Christmas break, and her older brother from college was home. And my parents let me go with them to Florida for Christmas break. They had a super nice beach house, and I was sharing a room with my best friend. And the boys were sharing a room. And our room was connected because there was a bathroom in the middle. Well, my best friend got super sick the first 3 days of the trip, so she didn't do anything with us. So I was hanging out with the boys all the time. Well, the one night we were on the deck and we started to play Truth or Dare. And one of them asked, "Would you sleep with us?" And I said, yeah. So at around 3 a.m., I snuck into their room, and things started to get real nasty. There are kids on this app, so just use your imagination. And things started to get really loud, and we woke their parents up, for part 2.
Story time about when my mom caught me doing it with my best friend.
I was 16 at the time, and there was this new boy that moved in across the street from us. He was super cute, and I noticed him right away. My parents were super strict. I wasn't allowed to have a boyfriend or even any guy friends, and I knew right away that I wanted to at least become this guy's friend because he was so cute. So one day I told my mom, "Hey, why don't we take cookies or something to welcome the new neighbors in town?" And my mom was like, "That's a great idea." So we end up going over, and we meet them. They're really nice, and the cute boy comes downstairs, and he tells his mom he's going to go to Bible study. Well, when we get home, I tell my mom, "Hey, you know what? Maybe I should join a Bible study group too." And my mom was like, "Great idea." She even told me to go ask him about it since he had mentioned it. One day he's mowing the lawn, so I decided to go talk to him and ask him about the Bible study group. He actually ended up taking me there that same day, and we had a fun class. Over the next few weeks, we became really, really good friends. Best friends. We told each other everything. But there was always attraction between.
Crazy story time about how my sister and I found out that we were hooking up with the same guy. So I was a freshman, my sister was a sophomore, and there was this really cute guy in her grade that I liked. But I could never find a way to talk to him because we weren't in the same grade and had none of the same classes. And my sister and I were not close at all. We didn't tell each other shit, we didn't really talk to each other or anything. So by that being said, we never told each other about the boys that we liked. We just didn't have that bond. Well, track season came around. So they called all the people down who wanted to do track, and I saw him walk past my classroom window, so I decided to go too. So I signed up for track, and him and I started to talk a little bit. We exchanged numbers, and he was popular, I wasn't, so he didn't want to be seen with me. So after attendance, we would go to this graveyard right by the track and hook up. Well, the next day we had a meet in our school. So him and I went to the graveyard, hooked up, and that's when it started getting crazy for part 2.
I'm so glad my mom raised me the way that she did, because growing up, y'all, some of y'all were some mean ass kids. So growing up, the movie Precious was popular, right? And if you were a little black fat girl when the movie Precious was out, you deserve financial compensation, because the visceral hate. Listen, I remember there was this new girl at my school, right? And she was a little fat black girl, right? So everybody off rip just hated her. They'd be like, "Oh, she sucks, we hate her, oh my god." And they would harass her. They would physically harass her all day, every day, and the teachers wouldn't really do anything, and nobody would really do anything. And I remember when my little friend group was trying it, and they were kikiing it up because she was walking over towards us, and they were like, "Haha, she's just so fat, she sucks, da 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 da." And I remember asking them, I was like, what's tea? Why do y'all not like her? What did she do something? And all they could tell me was "Oh, she just stinks, she's fat, she stinks." And I was like, "No, she doesn't, because I hang out with her and she smells quite fine, if you ask me." And I'm like, "No, I don't think that's the reason." I was like, "Is it because she's big? Is that the only reason?" And that was the only reason. So I was like, "Why don't you what's tea? Why all of this visceral hate for her?" Because when She was the nicest person I think I've ever met in my life. She was so kind, so sweet, always trying to make friends, everything like that. And I remember after school, there was these group of boys who were always trying to jump her. They were fiending to beat this girl up for no reason. They do it almost every single day, either at lunch or after school. They would try to jump her. And so I remember one day she got expelled because she was standing up for herself, and she kicked all their little asses, right? And she got expelled. The boys did not get in trouble at all. And I remember the girl had a little brother that went to the elementary school, right? So I remember her mom's car was there, and the windows were tinted and they were rolled all the way up. So I didn't know it was her until she rolled it down just a little bit. I saw that it was her, and I was like, hey girl. She's like, hey. And I was like, where you been? It's been like 3 weeks. And she's like, I got expelled for beating up these boys. And I was like, as you should. And I remember at the end of it, this was the last time I ever saw this girl, and she was like, you know, she was like, thank you for being my friend, because she was like, everybody there like sucked. Nobody wanted to be my friend. She was like, you were the only one. And I was like, yeah girl, you were cool. Like, I don't know why everybody was so mad at you all the time. So yeah, girl, if you watching this, hit me up and follow my Instagram if you want to know more about this fun little hat.